Hey everybody. So I am back with another, yes, I know I keep doing these bonus episodes, you guys. But every time when I see something or when I feel inspired, I just really feel really obligated to share with you guys. But basically, I am doing another bonus episode podcast today to share with you guys real quick because I watched a video by the one and only Kim Velez. If you guys haven't already looked her up, I don't know if she still teaches the law of assumption or not. I think she's kind of came away from it in the past, especially this past year or two. But anywho, I was very inspired by her video and I actually shared it on my community tab today for you guys to watch. And basically it was about how if you're somebody who's been doing a lot of inner work, and this inner work can be especially if you're manifesting, for example, right? Like if you're doing a whole bunch of scripting or visualizing or affirming or, journaling, whatever the case may be, whatever technique you're using, right? But the thing is maybe you're kind of wondering, okay, why am I not being chosen? What's happening behind the scenes? Or you're kind of wondering what's going on, right? So I wanted to talk to you guys about that. Now, I kind of did mention one of my most recent episodes, I kind of went in depth a little bit about inner work and, talking about the difference between detachment and feeling whole. I kind of go deep into that and how it kind of ties into this, but this is actually an episode that kind of gets specific about, manifestation and inner work and, you needing to realize what you're not doing, action based. And I'm going to get deep into that. So this episode is going to be about how at one point where I wasn't manifesting love, I was actually chasing worthiness. Okay, so if you've ever told yourself, if I just healed enough, visualized harder, or got my self-concept better, he'd finally choose me. Yeah, I've done the same. I used to believe that, the more spiritual work I did, the more likely that the person who rejected me or breadcrumbed me, aka Breadcrumb King, you guys know who that is by now if you haven't been following me, that they would suddenly just wake up and be my ideal partner, that fantasy I was always envisioning, right? But the truth is that I wasn't manifesting love. I was actually trying to earn it. And I had no idea that I was actually really chasing worthiness. And it was actually disguised as spiritual alignment. So I'm going to break this down. So there's actually a huge difference between manifesting aligned love and using spiritual tools, like I just named earlier, to try to force someone emotionally unavailable to change. And this is what a lot of us, like I said, who are in the manifestation communities, where it's whether it's law of assumption or law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, and self-concept communities, that this is what they don't talk about, right? We keep telling ourselves that we're manifesting love, but what we're really doing is we're trying to prove that we're finally good enough to be chosen by somebody who was never emotionally present to begin with. So therefore, that's when we get into the whole situation of doing techniques, scripting, we visualize, we recite mantras. But what's the energy behind it? Well, believe it or not, that energy is often coming from fear, anxiety, and a desperate hope that one day they will realize our worth. And here's the kicker. Sometimes we don't even ignore, we would actually ignore people who do show up because we're so addicted to that chaos. The person who is not even chasing us. or the person who is chasing us. Sorry, guys. I'm tired today. So, but I wanted to get this video out. But we get so addicted to the person, like to chasing the person who won't chase us, right? So here's how I broke the spell, okay? And as you guys know, I was there. You guys all know the story about Taz, right? And for years, I really did think that he was my person. I thought that that was the person I was meant to be with. That was the person I felt like home with, you know what I mean? And I talked about that, about the home thing, feeling at home with the person before, right? And, I've taken lots of different self-concept courses, and oh gosh, I've spent probably a little over $1,000 or maybe even $2,000 worth of courses. I kid you not, guys. I spent so much time doing and everything like that, right? But the thing is that nothing really changed. Like I would only get like temporary results, and then I felt like I was just going backwards, like nothing was really progressing, right? And, and even when I was in contact with him, like it would just revert, like his behavior would just revert back to how it always was, like being inconsistent, or I wouldn't hear from him for months unless I initiated contact, and gosh, that just got tiring after so many years, right? But, but the thing is that because I hadn't actually chose me yet, I was actually trying to fix the version of me that he wouldn't pick. And then that's when it hit me, where I was just like, why am I working so hard to be loved by somebody who wouldn't even do the bare minimum? Like, I literally had started, and I think I have talked to you guys about this before, where I started asking questions that I couldn't even get answered by any coach that anybody, would even dare to answer. Because I know that if they answered it, they would just lose business and lose money and whatever else, right? Because that's what would happen. And everybody would start to question them. But don't I have the right to ask those questions? I'm like, okay, what is really going on here? Like, why do I have to be the one to do the work to actually manifest this person to do what I want them to do? Why do I have to be that person, And it was just questions like that where I had to where it just really woke me up, right? And of course, that's when I realized that I was chasing validation, not alignment. I stopped. And then that, of course, because I talked to you guys about how I felt burnt out for so long as well, too. And I just kept persisting, because they always try to say persist, right? Ignore the 3D and all this other BS, right? And, that just got really tiring for me. And so therefore, I just stopped all of it. I was just like, you know what? I didn't really want to do it, you guys. There was a part of me where I didn't want to stop, consciously manifesting him and, and things like that. But I couldn't help how I felt. I was just like, man, like, I'm freaking tired, and I was just like, you know what? I don't even care what happens anymore. So what if I quote unquote gave up on manifesting? What about me? Right? At that point, I was just like, what about me? What about how I feel? Right? So, and that's exactly what I did. I just stopped. I stopped trying to affirm, having a whole list of visualizations of me and him being together. Going through courses, trying to see if I missed anything, looking out for that next course. Maybe I always felt like I was missing something, all that stuff. So, And then, of course, I've told you guys about, like, not only was I doing that, I had discovered my attachment style. And then I just slowly but gradually just started, like, I just felt like it was just a breath of fresh air of not having to consciously manifest this dude all the time. You know what I mean? And over time, like, things just really shifted even more for me, where the craving for him actually disappeared and I just felt way more at peace. It's like, that's actually like what really changed for me, is that I just stopped doing everything, stopped manifesting him, stopped affirming. And it was the best decision I've ever made in my life, let me tell you. So when I finally let go, something magical happened. Obviously, besides the cravings of him disappearing, right? I actually, the spiraling was happening less and less. I stopped obsessing so much. I stopped checking the 3D, and I stopped having that urge of wanting to energetically check in on him. And now I barely even really get it that often now. So, so those things you would just stop eventually happening, going on for me. Okay. So instead of trying to become the version of me he could love, I became the version of me I could respect. You get it? And then, of course, that's when I started aligning with somebody totally different. And that's Elton, right? And I've told you guys about Elton, my dream man. Okay. Like, he's everything that I hoped Taz would be, but without the chaos, without the waiting, the confusion. And Elton shows up as somebody who's emotionally available, secure, consistent. And the best part, I don't even feel anxious in his energy, especially when I tap into it, you guys. And I've never experienced that in my life. As many people as I've dated or met online, I can usually read somebody's energy a mile away without even meeting them. And that's when I just knew, I was like, this is the kind of person I need to be with. Somebody who does not give me anxiety to my nervous system. Elton is a person who is like, it's just peace. He's like heaven on earth, not a project. Okay. So, and lastly, I'm going to get into the real reason why you're not being chosen like I used to be. Okay. And I'm going to be real blunt, and I'm always blunt on here on my channel and with everyone I encounter. The reason some women are not being chosen it's not because you haven't done enough healing work, okay? It's actually because people, and this is how I used to be too, we're still actively choosing people who are not emotionally capable of showing up. So if you're still dealing with people or choosing people who are showing up inconsistently, giving you breadcrumbs, all that kind of stuff, then why still consciously even, and I know it goes on an unconscious level too, but especially if it's conscious, you guys, like, if you keep dealing with that behavior, then how are you going to finally get with somebody who actually shows you what you really, really want deep down? It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, how are you going to start being her or him if you're a guy listening, right? How are you going to start being that person that is always chosen? That's always, desired, whatever you want to call it, right? How is that even possible? Like, you can't just visualize and not embody, you know what I mean? It does, and take the action, right? Because it really is about actions you make, embodiment. And of course, I'm not saying you can't do techniques. You still can, because I still do, right? But it's actually the actions that come with it as well on top of the embodiment, like I said. So it goes hand in hand, right? That's all I'm saying. So you can be the operant power all day long, but that doesn't mean it's wise to use your power to hold on to somebody who doesn't even want to grow with you, right? So here's my final message to you. You're not here to prove you're lovable. You're here to receive the love that already knows you are. And if you're done chasing, but ready to attract, I got news for you. Welcome home. So, with that being said, if this episode hit you deep, share it with someone who's still trying to manifest crumbs into commitment. And if you're ready to step into the next version that actually feels safe to be loved, make sure you check out my free 7-day secure self journal. I'll have that linked in the description box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, you guys, to my channel so that way I can keep posting more content like this. It's greatly appreciated. And also be on the lookout for my brand new 28-day decentering men detox journal, guys. It's going to be absolutely amazing. It's definitely going to help you start becoming that person that is going to bring in that person that you truly do want and deserve. Okay. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next episode. And until then, stay whole, stay powerful, and stop chasing your soul that already outgrew.